Nice is when you check out Dynasty Rankings with tiers at Front Office Pros, you get 2 for the price of 1 because you're getting Joe and my rankings in the same episode. So, Joe, why don't you start us off? Who do you got in tier number 1?
All right, in my tier number 1, I've got it to number 1 spot, running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Number 2, Bijan Robinson. Number 3, Ashton Jeanty. And number 4, Saquon Barkley.
All right, so at number 1, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs. Number 2, Bijan Robinson. And number 3, Ashton Jeanty. So actually, we're 1, 2, 3 the same, except for you felt that Saquon Barkley is worthy of this first tier. I think the biggest knock against him is his age. He's 28 years old, although he did sign a 2-year extension worth $41.2 million with the Eagles, making him the highest paid running back in the NFL. And obviously, he had an incredible year. Believe it or not, finished as which doesn't even make sense to me. I guess, we have some funky stats, in our league. We look at first downs or whatever else, but Barkley was running back 2 in traditional PPR leagues, and Gibbs was 1. That kind of blows my mind a little bit because you would just think because of Saquon, just the unbelievable year that he had. But, obviously Gibbs is a lot more involved in the receiving game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense for the PPR factor, but yeah, it is surprising because you would just automatically assume Barkley had a historic year. You would just assume that he had to be the, fantasy RB1.
Well, I mean, Gibbs did score 20 total touchdowns compared to Saquon's 15. So, I mean, that is something to consider as well. But, I mean, for Saquon to have over 2,000 rushing yards, I mean, that's incredible. So, I mean, you feel as though he's not slowing down at this point. You're not necessarily worried about the injury concerns of the past. Saquon is just you view him in the same tier as these guys.
Yeah, I mean, he's just what he's doing, and just the the way he's going to be on the Eagles. I get his age 28, and it could be this is kind of the age cliff where guys could take a turn for the worst, and he is coming off of a season where he had over 300 plus touches. That's usually also a sign of not success for the prior year. Yeah, it's a big no-no, but I mean, I just think Saquon could just be different, and he's still going to be a focal point in that Philadelphia offense. And, even if he's only got at least 2 years left, I just feel like he's going to, as long as he's out there, he's going to keep performing at an elite level. So that's why I've got him in tier number 1 still.
Honestly, that tush push was banned. You'd almost would think that Saquon could be even better because, then if Jalen Hurts they're not doing those QB, I guess they could still do a QB sneak. It's just they can't,
That's the thing. Even if the tush push was, tush push was banned, I mean, they'd still be one of the top teams executing the quarterback sneak.
Yeah, because that offensive line knows how to block.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts is just such a big guy, and he's got such power in his legs. I think he still converts the quarterback sneaks in an elite level too.
So we have to defend ourselves here, Joe. I mean, a lot of people would say Bijan Robinson's number 1, and we both put Gibbs at number 1. What was your logic there?
I've always kind of had Gibbs ahead of Bijan Robinson. I just think, the fact that he's that explosive player, really like the way that the Lions utilize him in the offense. And that's the thing. Bijan, I don't know, he makes some of those really good stretch outside runs, but then there's just a lot of plays that I feel like he could do more with or better I don't feel like the Falcons necessarily utilize him enough in the pass game. So I don't know. I've always kind of just viewed Gibbs as the guy I'd rather have, so I always kind of been biased.
Did you realize that last year Bijan Robinson had more targets and more receptions than Jahmyr Gibbs?
I wouldn't have guessed that. No.
Bijan Robinson had 72 targets and 61 catches, compared to Jahmyr Gibbs' 63 targets with 52 catches. And then you look at his rookie year. Bijan Robinson also had more targets than him at 86 compared to Gibbs' 71. Now, Gibbs had 52 catches to Bijan's 58. So, technically, Bijan has outpaced Jahmyr Gibbs in both targets and receptions in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I guess Gibbs just does more with him, and he's just a more explosive player. And I'd rather have the explosive guys. Not to say that Bijan's not, but I don't know. They're just You watch Gibbs, I just think he's at a different level than Bijan.
I mean, looking at the underlying stats, you could make a compelling case for Bijan. I just think that for whatever reason, he should be more of a focal point of the offense, and he's not.
Yeah,
And Gibbs is. Gibbs is the he's the lightning in a bottle, and he just have these weeks that could just absolutely just blow you away and could help you win your matchup. So it's hard to deny. And honestly, David Montgomery is not getting any younger. When he no longer is there, do they find a replacement for him? Will Gibbs get even more work? I just feel like Gibbs. I think he's more dynamic. And at the end of the day, if Bijan, I always had Bijan over Gibbs, but you've kind of convinced me otherwise. I've always been a volume is king type of running back enthusiast when it comes to fantasy football. I've kind of changed my ways a bit. I'm not like completely off that
yeah,
track, but at this, they're very close. They really are.
yeah. No, they are definitely close, and it's not a to discount Bijan just by having him number two. I just think if I was literally drafting and I had the option of the two, I'm always going to pick Jahmyr Gibbs. So I've always got him ahead of him.
Now, interestingly enough, we both have Ashton Jeanty here. Do you think it's too high? I mean, I understand from the dynasty perspective, he's only 21 years old. He's the next big thing. He was drafted very high in the draft, which and number 6 overall is very high for a running back. You don't see that every day.
Yeah, no, and I just think he went to a great spot with the Raiders too. They're going to want to run the ball first, then at offense, and I just think he's going to just be an absolute stud when he plays. So I don't think number three's too high. I think we're justified in putting him there because I think he's going to take the league by storm here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. He could have went to a better landing spot. It's just one of those things that's hard because it's like you have not seen him literally play a snap, and you're putting him
Yeah,
in front of all these guys. But I mean,
well, I think
we're bullish on him.
yeah, and I think the youth factor helps too. The fact that he's coming in at 21 years old here, that definitely helps. I mean, you're looking at, Gibbs and Bijan are only a couple years older than him at 23. But just the anticipated longevity, and it's tough to project, whether guys are gonna keep get that second contract at the running back position.
All right, Joe. Let's head over to tier number 2. Who do you got there?
All right, in tier number 2, at number 5, I've got Jonathan Taylor. Number 6, Devon Achane. 7, Derrick Henry. 8, Bucky Irving. And at 9, Quinshon Judkins.
Wow. Okay. At 4, I've got Saquon Barkley. 5, Omarion Hampton. 6, Travion Henderson. 7, Quinshon Judkins. And 8, Brees Hall. Boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to unpack here. There are some stark differences between you and I in this tier. And I got to tell you, I don't know what's going on. You and I must be, I must be drinking your Kool-Aid and you're drinking mine because you were so much higher on Brees Hall than I was. And you've kind of convinced me, and now I got him in tier 2, and you don't have him in tier 2. So I am really surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I'm a lot lower on Brees Hall than I used to be.
What
I'm
happened?
nervous about him.
Why?
I just feel like he just hasn't really seemed like the same guy after his injury, and then the Jets' offense just has been sucking, and then I feel like they're just want to get Braylon Allen more involved there, and it's going to be more of a committee style, and I don't know, yeah. So I mean I'm not. I used to be extremely bullish on Brees Hall and considered him one of the top guys. I don't necessarily see him in that same light anymore.
Wow. I mean, to me, it's hard to deny he was running back 16 the past season, running back 2 the year before that. He's in a contract year, so in my mind, he's going to try to ball out so he can cash out. Now, the rumors have it, you're not wrong. Aaron Glenn, the head coach, has come out and said that we have 3 good running backs on the team. So I
Yeah,
mean, and so and who knows? Is that coach speak? Is that something that we'll see? We did see the Lions obviously utilize multiple backs, but that could mean that Brees Hall, which again I'm surprised that you're not thinking this way, could keep Brees Hall more fresh, and he's explosive. He doesn't need all that many touches, to hit pay dirt. So I'm a little surprised. He's only 23 years old. I just think he's overhyped. But he was a tough one for me to put in a spot. But I'm shocked that because you had Jonathan Taylor, I think, in tier 3. I mean, it's like a yo-yo effect here. Now you got Jonathan Taylor all the way up to 5, and I got him out of tier 2. That's why I'm so confused.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. I just think, I know Jonathan Taylor's a little older here, 26. Only, under contract, I think, one more year from the Colts after this one, and he'll be 27. But when the guy's healthy, he just shown that he just performs.
But that's the problem. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He only played 14 games last year, 10 the year before that, 11 the year before that.
Yeah, I mean, even in the 14 games, I think you were pretty happy with the 14 games that you got out of him last year.
Yeah, he's running back 12 though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not stellar. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty with Taylor, and the question of how long he's going to be with the team for.
No, I know. Yeah, that is the question. I mean, but I not to say that if he were to go somewhere else that it wouldn't benefit him. I mean, the Colts offense hasn't been the best either. I mean, he's really the main focal point and guy you got to kind of try to stop first. Is they haven't had great quarterback play, which honestly, with their lack of offense and quarterback play, they don't get as many offensive snaps, which kind of limits his opportunities. So I think even if he were to leave the Indianapolis Colts, that could actually be a better situation for him.
The tough part for me is he's not explosive and he's not involved in the receiving game. He's kind of just a pure volume guy who is able to.
I don't know if he's not explosive. He's had a lot of long runs in his career, and he even had some last year. I mean,
I guess you're true. Yards per carry. I mean, I guess he's just a chain mover. I don't see him as a guy who has a lot of breakaway runs. He's more just kind of.
He has the ability to have the breakaway runs, though.
Maybe I'm wrong about that. I didn't think that he did, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, he definitely has. I mean, and over his career, he's shown that he's had quite a few long runs.
I don't think his 40 time was that high.
It doesn't matter what 40 time is, Steve. It matters
but
about
that
how they do on the
speed.
field.
Well, he had a 4.39. That's
yeah. You're discounting him. He runs decently well for a bigger guy.
Fair enough. Obviously, I'm a little bit higher than you are on this rookie class. Look, to me, when it's a dominant class, you lean into it. And that's where I'm at. I mean, this is the best running back class we've seen since the Joe Mixon class. I think that was 2017. And to me, you just don't shy away from it. And these guys, I think, you're talking about Hampton, who's going to have a 5-year contract. Henderson and Judkins are going to have 4-year contracts. These guys are going to be mainstays in those offenses. I can't, running back is topsy-turvy.
It's not a guarantee that Hampton's going to get his 5th-year option picked up. He's got the possibility of the 5th year. It's not a guarantee.
That's still a good. Well, you're just down on Hampton, so.
No, I'm just saying you're saying a 5-year contract as if like it's guaranteed that the Chargers will pick it up. Like it's not a guarantee.
I mean, usually 5th-year options for running back is not that high because the franchise tag value at running back is not very high.
Yeah, no, that part is true.
So if he's even just near somewhat productive, they would accept it.
We'll see, possibly.
It's not a guarantee, but let's we could go into a tailspin here talking. We could be here all day long. So looking at your guys, what are some highlights here? What made you you had Achane, Henry, Irving. You have Judkins as the second best guy here. What was the spin here?
I don't know if I necessarily have a spin, just kind of the way I feel about the guys. And yeah, no surprise if you caught our video of the debate and who's the better rookie. No surprise that Quinshon Judkins is my number 2 guy. Just right out of the gate, it's going to have a great opportunity for volume and touches with Cleveland. And I think with the downside of Hampton is you're going to have to wait a year. And who's to say that Chargers don't bring back Najee Harris after that? Obviously, even after signing Najee Harris, drafting Hampton, they still want rights to J.K. Dobbins as well. So Harbaugh seems to be a guy that likes a lot of the guys in the room.
Why Henry so high, though? I mean, I think that's the one that probably will people point to because he's a lot older. So
yeah, I get it. And I get this is Dynasty and it favors the young guys. But look, you still have to have productive older guys as well. It's got to be a mix. You can't just have all these young players on your team. You got to have a good mix of young and old guys. And based on performance and the fact that Derrick Henry just got a 2-year extension with the Baltimore Ravens as well, I think he deserves to be up high even despite his age.
I mean, he's been the model of consistency. 4, 8, 4. Discount the year that he was injured. 3, 5. I mean, for a running back, and they are so unpredictable from year to year, he's been the model of consistency.
That's what I mean. That's why I feel like I had to include him up here. If he didn't get the 2-year extension and that was more of a bit of an unknown at his age, it would be harder to. But with that, I mean, I can justify it.
All right, enough about tier 2. Let's head over to tier 3, Joe. Who do you got there?
All right, in my tier 3 at number 10, I've got R.J. Harvey at 11, James Cook, 12, Kyron Williams, 13, Breece Hall, 14, Josh Jacobs, and 15, Chase Brown.
All right, at number 9, I've got Josh Jacobs, 10, Jonathan Taylor, 11, Bucky Irving, 12, R.J. Harvey, and 13, Devon Achane. We talked enough about Jonathan Taylor in the last segment, so we can kind of bypass him here. Now, you and I are pretty different on Achane, which is no surprise. You've always liked him more than me. I have him at 13. You have him 6. I have him a lot lower than most have him. I just think that Miami team is kind of in disarray. I have a real feeling about this. Achane in his rookie year showed a lot of potential. Obviously, he had a 7.77 yard per carry, which is an eye-opener, right? He was running back 24. Then he was running back 5 last year. He was in his first year, he only played 11 games. So I'm concerned. I mean, you look at the Miami cap structure of all their contracts. I think if Miami does not perform well, which ultimately you're going to see probably even by the time maybe this episode drops, Jalen Ramsey will no longer be a Dolphin, or it's going to be pretty close. So you're going to see a lot of those players leave. And I think Miami may be the worst team in the division this year. It's very possible. Could be the Jets, too. It's going to be up in the air. I think the Patriots could be a sneaky pick. But why am I saying this? If McDaniel doesn't come back and they clear house and get rid of Chris Greer, I'm not so sure that Achane is going to be as good as people think, because he's benefited greatly in that Shanahan-type running back system that McDaniel's run. And if you don't have that in there, and Tyreek Hill will, I'll tell you this right now, you could put it to the bank. Tyreek Hill will not be a Miami Dolphin next year. His cap hit is a whopping $51 million. This team is going to be, their makeup of this team is going to change drastically. So I have, as you had concern about Breece Hall, I have concern about Devon Achane going forward here.
Makes sense, but I get that. But everything you're saying just leads to Achane being more involved in the offense and being like the true playmaker. I think that's the main difference.
I don't think he has the durability to be able to do that. I think Jalen Wright is going to be. They're saying, reports are saying he's looking a lot better. I think he could be involved. Who knows if Ollie Gordon makes the roster? I think he was a 6th-round pick. So, I mean, what says that Devon Achane is going to get all this volume? He doesn't need it. He just has to have a couple runs to hit pay dirt. But I don't know. I think people.
I mean, he performed fine with Raheem Mostert, and I think like Jalen Wright will just fill that Raheem Mostert role and spell Achane, which to your point will keep him fresher and allow him to make those explosive plays. I think he does need a good second back, and it would only, to me, it benefits him and the whole offense if Jalen Wright does take the next step.
We'll see. It's possible. To me, he's not a guy that I think he's far more risky. I think he's a riskier player than some of the other ones. And it depends on how your risk tolerance.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's not risky. I just, his upside and stuff. I mean, I think he deserves to be
personally
up higher.
Personally, I would much rather have Bucky Irving, a guy who showed how explosive he was.
Well, now, you have him higher then.
I do.
Well, you got him at 11.
Right, Irving's at 11 and Achane's at 13. I'm just saying I would prefer Irving.
So why wouldn't you have Bucky Irving even higher though? Like, why isn't he higher than Jonathan Taylor and Josh? Or maybe not Taylor so much, but at least Jacobs.
Jacobs has been a model of consistency over the past few years.
But I mean, you want to talk about a guy who doesn't catch passes and everything else, and who knows how long he's going to be at Green Bay Packers.
He was running back 6 last year. He had a great year.
Marshawn
Prior
White
to
doesn't scare you at all.
no,
Hmm.
the guy had like 3 or 4 injuries. He had too much buzz coming out. I'm not really no, doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
I mean, I will say this as a Josh Jacobs owner, last year in redraft leagues, I got really irritated because they brought Emmanuel Wilson in all the time, and it's like, what is going on here? And
Yeah,
eventually, I'm fed up. I traded him away, and what do you know? Now he starts being Superman. I was like, figures. Just when I was like, I can't take it anymore. They finally
right.
started involving him. It's just like, and anytime he ran, it seemed like he had a huge long run. They go holding. It's like, what? Like, what
Yeah,
is going on here?
I
So I
remember
mean,
when you had him, that was happening.
oh, I was like so frustrated about that. So I mean, yeah, I Buck Irving is a good one. I could have probably put him higher. It's just one of those things where he showed a lot of flashes. He was running back, but he was running back 13. Like that's where people are like, oh, like Bucky Irving's so great. It's like, okay, he showed a lot of flashes, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. He was running back 13. If he would have been running back like 6 or 7,
But I
okay,
think he's got the potential to be up there, and that's the thing. And I think too, you got to remember towards the beginning of the season, like it wasn't like he got thrusted right into the starting role either. They
no.
were still messing with Rashad White. Then they realized, oh wow, this Bucky Irving guy is the far better player and more explosive. So we got to get him the ball more. So I think that plays into it as well.
Yeah, but you just said with Henry, it's a tension of players who have been productive that and then there's players that have potential. I mean, you and I both have Harvey on here. We have no idea what's going to happen with Harvey, but I think Harvey
Oh,
has a lot of
I,
intrigue.
yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what RJ Harvey's going to do.
Oh, okay, Denver Broncos fan. What's
Look,
he going to do?
I'm just saying the Broncos had Javonte Williams had over 70 targets last year. They pretty much did absolutely nothing with them. If they continue to throw to the running back position that much, RJ Harvey is just gonna be a major player in his rookie year as in
Why don't
fantasy
you have
here.
him higher?
I mean I could have, but I think I'm trying not to be like too like too much of a biased person here with RJ Harvey. So I feel like 10's a good spot for him, Steve.
Interesting. I'll revisit Cook and Kyron later because I think their situations are very interesting. So let's head over to tier number 4. Who do you got there?
All right, in tier 4 at 16, I've got Travion Henderson, 17 Kenneth Walker, 18 O'Marion Hampton, and 19 Caleb Johnson.
All right, so for me at number 14, I've got running back James Cook, 15 Kyron Williams, 16 Derrick Henry, 17 Christian McCaffrey, and number 18 Caleb Johnson. So I alluded to them. I'm going to talk about this, so I'll bring it up here with Cook and Kyron. I think it's totally reasonable where you have them. We have them in different tiers. We're not that far off as far as numbers go with them. I have Cook at 14. You have Cook at 11. I've got Kyron at 15. You've got him at 12. The contract situation for both of them scares me. Cook obviously wants to get paid buku bucks. I don't know if the Bills will pay him. If he goes to be a free agent, it creates a lot of uncertainty as to what his role will be and what will happen. Not to say he can't succeed, but we can't we don't know the future, right?
Right.
Same thing with Kyron, and Kyron makes me even more concerned because Kyron has benefited greatly from the volume. Now, there's been mixed, I'd say, messages from the Rams. It seems to indicate they're working on an extension, but then they go ahead and they draft Jarquez Hunter, and you're seeing, videos of Sean McVay coming out and being like, he was my guy. He's who I wanted. I'm so pumped to have him. They also drafted Blake Corum. So it's like, okay, I don't know if Kyron's going to have as much volume as he used to have. And if he doesn't have the volume, is he a guy that you really want? I'm not sure. I mean, he had 316 attempts last year. And the guy can't really even stay healthy either. Last year he did good, but before that he had 12 games, and then before that he was 10 games. So he's one of the toughest guys in my opinion to rate altogether.
Yeah. I actually have To me, I think there's more questions with James Cook in his contract situation. I do think the Rams get something done. Wouldn't be
You
shocked if
do? Why
I
Hunter? Why Hunter and Corum though? It doesn't make sense. It's like a rag of riches.
because I think Jarquez Hunter provides the explosiveness that the Rams offense really lacks, and I think he will spell Kyron Williams. Corum at this point just could be Kyron Williams insurance if he goes down, then Corum gets brought into the mix with Hunter. But I wouldn't be shocked if I think Kyron
So
Williams
Corum is basically a wasted pick.
could be if they
If you
extend
drafted
Kyron
Corum
Williams.
last year hoping that he would be something, unless Kyron gets injured, you're basically Corum's toast.
I think it's possible that he could be. You know, I think that's a fact. But I think with the Kyron Williams, I think he gets a contract extension probably before the training camp.
Well, and that's a lesson for those out there, and then I'm going to push into this a little bit. You look at the running back class last year, and if you want to draft for need, you had guys like Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, and Blake Corum as the top guys. Well, look at them now, right? Jonathan Brooks, obviously, we didn't know he would tear his ACL again.
Right.
We didn't know that Jaquez Hunter was going to get drafted, right? We didn't know these things, but it's like if you would have forced the issue and drafted these guys higher than they should have, you're stuck. Those are looking like wasted picks when the receiver class last year was so deep. Now you look at this year, the running back class is real deep. Wide receivers not as much. So,
Right.
and the quarterback class was really deep last year. This one not as much. So, in my mind, you really got to play the strengths of what the rookie class looks like. Don't overreach and take guys based off of need just because like, well, I need a running back, so I'm going to take Blake Corum because I think Blake Corum is going to, take over for Kyron.
Yeah. Well, see that, and that's the other thing. We don't want to also can't overact with these rookie picks. I know a lot of people are concerned last year. Would Kyron Williams still get the volume last year? With the selection of Blake Corum, Kyron Williams still got the volume. I think there's still possibly the case for this year, despite them getting Hunter. I still think Kyron Williams will be their lead guy.
It's possible, but I mean, in other situations like Travion Henderson, who you have here, Caleb Johnson, these guys are going to be getting. I mean, I'm not. I think if I'm a Rondre Stevenson owner, I'm very concerned. And if I was hoping that Jalen Warren was going to take over for whatever reason, I think that's out the window as well.
Well, come on. We knew Jalen Warren wasn't going to take over. He's a complimentary back.
I get
And
that.
for Henderson, I just wish he would have went to a better situation. I think he's got some opportunity
You're worried
there.
about the New England
But the
optics.
Patriots, I just hate the New England running back system, and it's always kind of just been like, the one plus is he has that receiving upside, and we've seen, the receiving backs do very well. The James White type of players, they've been very relevant for fantasy. So hopefully, he falls into that category. But other than that, man, sometimes it can be tough. They like to mix in, McDaniels always like to have like 3 running backs to mix in there, and it just can be a fantasy nightmare in that situation.
Now, I am a little surprised that you don't have Christian McCaffrey yet. I feel like you're not. Last I heard, I don't think you were concerned about the injury. Is that untrue? Is that not true?
It's not a factor of the injury as much as it's the injury plus the fact that he is 28 as well. So
I get that, but I mean, you had Derrick Henry at 31, up at 7.
right, but that he also doesn't have a ticking time bomb on his calf that can easily
Well, and
just
his
pop back
Achilles
up.
tendonitis or whatever it was.
Well, that too. I mean, that calf and Achilles, they're all kind of tied together. I mean, that is. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is like extremely risky. Just the fact that he is 28 and he has the calf and Achilles injuries, and that tendonitis, man, you mentioned it, like can just pop up at any time, and he could be missing time.
So, if you were a contending team, is he fool's gold or is he your road to the championship?
As long as he stays on the field, he's the road to the championship.
What do you acquire him, knowing how risky he is? Because he's probably the most risky player there is to acquire.
I think I would take the risk because I think the manager, whoever had him last year, is going to be so discouraged with him and very nervous about the injury. I think you can get him at a cheaper price than you would particularly get Christian McCaffrey at. So I think that lowers the risk a little bit, and I'd be willing to buy low on him. And if he stays on the field, I mean, he like you said, he could be the road to the championship. for you.
All right, so we're going to round out, go into our tier 5, Joe. Who do you got there?
All right. Tier 5, number 20, I've got Christian McCaffrey. 21, Chuba Hubbard. 22, Joe Mixon. 23, Alvin Kamara. And at 24, David Montgomery.
Okay. At number 19, I've got Kenneth Walker. 20, Travis Etienne. 21, Chase Brown. 22, Chuba Hubbard. 23, Alvin Kamara. And 24, Joe Mixon. It just goes to show that this rookie running back class, I mean, we did our quarterback episode, recently. We didn't have that many changes. It completely got blown up by the rookie running backs that entered into the class. One guy I want to talk about here, and Joe, maybe I'm missing something, because you've always been a fan of this guy, more so than me. But I've been seeing a lot of buzz lately on Kenneth Walker, and I'm really not understanding why. And I'll go lay into this a little bit. Okay? He's been in the NFL 3 years. He's in his final year in his rookie deal. Okay? 2024, he played 11 games, running back 27. Before that, he was running back 19 with 15 games, and then he was running back 18 with 15 games. He's never had over 10 rushing touchdowns. He's went over 1,000 yards once in his career. He's never been over 300 receiving yards, and he's had just one receiving touchdown, or with 2 in total, but 1 in the past 2 years. What am I missing? People have him even higher. People have him sometimes in their tier 3. I don't get it. What am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, like over on Fantasy Pros, like his best spot is, number 9. To your point, I think it's just
that is wild to me. How could they have him that high? I mean, I just don't understand. The hype on him is just out of this world. I mean, they still have Zach Charbonnet. Let's not forget that, and they have Damian. You say that, but he had some decent games last year.
I know, because Charbonnet is only relevant when Kenneth Walker gets hurt, though. That's the only thing. And that's the problem with Kenneth Walker. If this guy could ever just and I think that's part of the problem is this offseason is just like pure looking at like what the stats and like what he does and the intrigue, and it's just forgetting the fact that he just can't stay healthy. But if this guy ever could, I mean, he would be, easily one of the top running backs. And it just, he leads the NFL in missed tackles forced per attempt. He also, ranks 10th in yards after contact per attempt as well. So it's just like with those different metrics and things, like if this guy could stay healthy, he'd easily, be a top 10 running back. It's just the fact that he's always getting injured and can't just put together the full season.
Those underlying metrics are interesting, but I just think people are just crazed when it comes to Kenneth Walker, and I don't think it's justified. He's a complete avoid for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I get sucked in, man, because he's a guy that I've just liked so much.
And I haven't, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, but you just see it. Like he's a very productive player when he's healthy, but you just know at some point, unfortunately, he's most likely going to get hurt and miss time.
Well, and that's where it's interesting too, because I'll contrast him with a guy who I had very close with, Travis Etienne. You didn't have him in your top 24, but man, he's dropped like an absolute rock. I mean, you're seeing him in like the mid 30s. I think are people just thinking too much of the most recent season? I mean, let's not forget in 2023, he was the RB3 on the year with 282.4 points, involved in the receiving and the rushing game. And even in the second season, he was RB17. I know last year he was RB15, and it was really bad. But the Jags were kind of in a rough spot as it is. I don't know. Maybe people just think that Basal Tootin is just going to take the lead by storm. But I even saw recently, and it's OTAs, I get it, but he fumbled, I think, on his first day, and Liam Cohen was basically saying he's kind of in the doghouse and being like, you can't do that. So I don't know. I don't know why people. I mean, Etienne's in the last year of his contract. I understand how bad it was last year, but I don't understand why he's dropped so far.
Well, it's just the two, and I think watching last year, Tank Bigsby was the better running back. He was the more efficient running back in yards per carry as well than Etienne. And if Etienne's not going to, I get it's 1 year, but it's the most recent year, and not to mention they brought in Baseball Tootin, who's an explosive player. So if ETN's not going to provide those explosive plays, Tootin's going to get the carries ahead of him. And the fact that like ETN isn't tied to the new GM, isn't tied to Liam Cohen. I know you could say the same thing about Tank Bigsby, but fact of the matter is Tank Bigsby put out way better tape than Travis Etienne did last year.
Yeah, but
Going in,
Lawrence and ETN have a lot of chemistry and rapport. You don't think that Lawrence is behind the scenes?
it's never really seen like we haven't. I mean, he had the 1 year we did see it, but like that rapport, I think is a little bit overhyped from their Clemson days. Is like I don't think like that's been an extreme edge in making ETN this great player, or even benefiting Lawrence that much.
Interesting. Now, you and I both had Hubbard and Brown. Oh, I had Brown. You didn't have Brown. You have Brown way higher than I do. I've got him at 21. You have him at, well, not way higher. You have him at 15. I have him at 21. Here's my thing. I think Brown and Hubbard are in very similar situations where both of them are relatively young, right? I mean, Chuba being older. Chuba's 25. Sorry, no, they're the same age. Forgive me. Chuba's 25 and Chase Brown's 25. I assume that Hubbard was older because he's been in the league for 4 years, where Chase Brown was in the league for 2 years. But both of them basically have, I think, obviously Brown has 2 years left on his rookie deal. Hubbard signed an extension. I think he's got 2 or 3 years left. I think both of them are like, okay, I think they're both going to do well next year, but there's no guarantee that their team is going to keep them as the main back next year. I think they are on a year-by-year trial basis, and so as a result, I have a very hard time putting either one of them much higher. Could they still keep it together? Yes, but I don't know if either one of them have any assurances moving forward after this upcoming season.
I could see that. I think Chase Brown's got a little bit more assurance just in the fact that with this loaded, running back draft class, the Bengals really, I mean, they drafted Taj Brooks late, but outside of that, they didn't really address the running back room. And honestly, they couldn't afford to because they've spent so much money on offense. They had to upgrade that defense, and they're going to kind of still be in that same boat. I don't know what the future running back draft classes look like. So I think, as long as Chase Brown puts together another solid year here, I think there's a chance that the Bengals will just keep moving forward with Brown.
It's totally possible. I mean, if you look at his underlying metrics, he did fantastic. We had talked about whether you should acquire him or not, and what's your risk tolerance prior to the draft. If you did, bravo, because Bengals didn't do anything about him.
Yeah, they certainly didn't, which bodes well for him. I mean, that's where like the like Panthers, despite getting like covered the contract, they've added Rico Dowdle. They've done more to their running back room.
And they drafted Trevor Etienne too. I mean,
correct,
they have Jonathan Brooks who will be on the IR.
Yep.
But then you got guys like Kamara and Mixon, who they didn't really add much to their rooms either, and these guys just keep getting older, but they just still keep getting used.
Yeah, and I don't see how their utilization is gonna stop because, like you said, they're the clear and away best running backs on their respective teams, and Mixon really had a good year with the Texans. I know he disappointed towards the end, but the Texans didn't bring anyone really in there, so he's gonna have this, should have a similar workload as he did last year.